Hi, everybody. Sam Raven here. And Heidi is with me for another episode of Spirit Talks.
Hello.
And we were thinking that this would be a really good time for us to talk about spirit and family members, loved ones, because so many of you have lost a loved one and you ask questions about how do I get in touch with them? How do I know they're here? How do I recognize them? What should I look for? What is a sign? So you ask all those sorts of questions. So Heidi and I thought we would share some more insight about that whole topic. So Heidi, take her away. Tell us a little bit about what are maybe some of the signs to look for when a loved one is in spirit and you've been so desperately wanting to connect with them. Is it something subtle? Is it something that should hit them over the head? So what do people look for?
Okay, well, it's a question, and again, it depends on the spirit and how they are going to come through. You know, because if they were quiet when they were here, a lot of times they're quiet in spirit. But if they were funny and silly, and if they were more loud and boisterous, they'll be that way in spirit. That's definitely been my experience. And I know you and I have a ton of experience with this and how we've helped clients, you know, to have that closure or the peace. The biggest question is, are they okay? That's
Absolutely.
one.
Absolutely. People want to ask that. Yeah. But yes, going back to what you just said about them, you know, it's like they maintain their personality. How they were in life is how they are, you know, as spirits. So if they were a doofus in life, you're going to have a doofus spirit around. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, people don't even realize that they carry personality with them.
Yes. And that makes it easier for us to recognize them again, because you're like, there's just that, well, they're acting this way. I remember working with a woman and her father, and he hardly said anything at all. He did not smile when he came through, and he was very somber. And I described him to her. She's like, that's Dad. He never smiled. He never said anything. He hardly ever talked. I said, well, there he is. So again, there's so many different experiences with your loved ones. They love when we invite them, again, just like, you know, with the spirit guides, they love when we invite them, whether maybe you're in your car and you're going for a drive. I notice a lot of my contact and communication with my family, and I do have a lot of loved ones on, you know, in spirit, a lot. I've had some of the greatest experiences in the car, either sitting next to me or behind me. The shower is another one where a lot of my clients and I have had experiences.
The car, you're just, yep, the shower, the car.
Yes.
Well, they have your undivided attention there.
They do. And so, you know, if you just invite them in and just say, I miss you, I love you, I want to talk to you. And there's a slippery slope is kind of what I call it when we're grieving. When we are in a deep state of grief and sorrow and we really miss them, we can lower our frequency, and it's nothing that, of course, we do intentionally, or we get stuck in our grief, and then we're so troubled that we don't hear from them, or we don't feel them, or we don't have the sign, any of the signs. But something that I always recommend doing is, I call it throwing them out a lifeline, which kind of sounds ironic because, but again, it's just life in a different dimension.
Wait, I know you're dead, but hang on, I'm throwing you a lifeline.
I'm throwing you a lifesaver.
I love it.
Is when you're in your grief and you're in your sorrow and you're crying. Say, just for example, you miss them so much and you're crying. A lot of times, especially out of the blue, if you're just driving down the road or you're going about your day and you're not thinking about them, and then boom, all of a sudden you miss them so much, they're with you. You feel their essence, you feel their presence, and it reminds you of them, and then you go into grief. When you're in that grief, that they imagine what would you do if the roles were reversed? Your spirit would be loving them, saying, I'm right here, I'm okay, I love you, I didn't go anywhere. I'm actually closer to you now than I ever could be. You just can't see me. And so that's when they come around and they'll blanket you and love you. And if you can, even the depth of your at the moment of you crying and feeling that grief, just say, I know you're here, I love you, and put your hand out, or, you know, just open yourself up to just take a moment, even one deep breath or two deep breaths, and say, I know that you're with me. I love you. Even if I can't see you or feel you right now, I know that you're with me. And I'm telling you, I've witnessed this so many times by seeing it, how you open up a gateway, you open up a connection with them through your grief that will help you to continue to have that connection with them, because sometimes we grieve for a long time. And the
Yes.
energy, the frequency of grief is very different than the frequency of love. Just,
Yes.
you know, and so if we can just, again, acknowledge, that's something that's really coming in for me to share, because a lot of us are going through grief as we love and miss them, our beloved ones, even if it's been, you know, a week or 2 months, or if it's been 25, 30 years, you know, that's so real. So inviting them in and allowing them to be part of your grief is really important, or else you can feel like they're not there, and it makes your grief last longer. Do you want to take over? Because I think that's just one big, it's really important. That's something that I kind of share quite a bit with my clients.
Mm-hmm. And
Initially,
don't you find that sometimes when people become so self-indulgent in their grief, because grief itself is really, we feel sorry for ourselves because we're missing them so very much. We're not feeling sorry for them because they are kick butt awesome where they are. So,
oh yeah, they're in liquid love. They're having the best. Yeah, they're free.
Exactly. And sometimes when we become overly self-indulgent in our grief, feeling sorry for ourselves, we're lowering our vibration, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes. And it's a tough place to be in, you know, for whatever reason. And so that's why I like to help my clients understand that if you can raise that, you know, just, and again, if you think about vibrations, they're not in the body anymore. They're not that heavy. And so they have a higher frequency. And for us to just think of fun memories, or think of the things that, instead of the things that you miss about them, think of the wonderful memories, or a funny story or something. And you can even talk about it out loud, or say, oh my gosh, remember this time or that time. It's going to elevate the way that you feel, which will make it easier sometimes to connect with them.
Absolutely.
And be open. I mean, the more open you are, again, it's just like with our spirit guides, allow them to show you the signs. Because if you in your mind think, okay, they love butterflies, it has to be a butterfly, or they love sunflowers, like it has to be a sunflower, or it's not them. And oftentimes it will be something that does remind you of them. It will be. But again, the more open you are to seeing, and it's a smell, it could be their perfume. My grandmother came through with homemade bread, the smell of homemade bread, because she used to make it from scratch. And I remember walking through the house and I'm like, do you guys smell that? And the kids are like, think I'm nuts. They're like, what, mommy? I'm like, do you smell that homemade bread? Some people smell cigarette smoke.
Exactly. Tobacco from grandpa's pipe.
Pipe, yes. Or their perfume, or, you know, just something that you know is them.
Lavender is a big one with my grandmother. All of a sudden I would smell either lavender or the lily of the valley flower. She loved, and so did I. As a child, I would pick these lily of the valley for her, and all of a sudden, because it's like she knows as soon as she brings that smell with her into the room, I know grandma's there. And it's just, it's just so very, very cool. And you're right, it's very important not to, again, try to put them in a box in the way that they will appear to you or connect with you or let you know that they are there.
Use your different senses. You might see a picture. You might just see an image of them in your head. You know, maybe it's an old picture, or it might be a one that was taken, you know, right before they passed, or a memory. You might
that one
have
of Granny in her bathing suit on the beach when she was like 85. And you went, Granny, did you have to wear that?
Right. Did you have to show me that one? But they're very creative. So use your creativity, and again, as open-minded as you can be, the better. So if you're seeing them, I've had people say, well, I'm seeing pictures of them all the time in my mind. I just thought that I thought of them. Okay, no, they're showing you, it's me. because it's easy for you to see a picture of them. So you want, oh, okay, so they're coming through, letting me know that's them. Again, you might hear them and you think you're making it up because you can hear them say something, because it's so easy for you to remember what they would say. Most often it's them talking to you.
Okay, let me interject here.
Please do.
So a lot of the folks here in the group, know about my friend. I call him Sonny, but his real name is Will. But after he had passed, I mean, I was so devastated. And I buried him, up in Oklahoma. We were up at the native reservation and yada yada. And the minute that we committed him to the ground, he let me know that he was there through various means, whether it was things on the watch or the time that it stopped at. And the synchronicities were phenomenal. And then so here I am, I'm leaving Los Angeles because I was working in the film industry and he did too. And I had to finish up this movie that I was working on in LA and then drive to Houston to do a fundraiser because I had taken personal responsibility for all the medical debt, for everything. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do? I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So anyway, I get in my car and I start driving, east to Texas. I get to Albuquerque and it was my first time in Albuquerque. So, so I come into town, I find Old Town Albuquerque. And so I thought, I got to go check some of the galleries. So I get out of my car, I go into some of the I love all the native stuff and the paintings and the pottery and the kachinas and the medicine pouches and historical things. And oh my gosh, I was like in seventh heaven. I was like, I'm home. I love this. It just was so fabulous. So anyway, so I'm heading back to my car thinking, okay, I need to get to Santa Fe and I wanted to get there before dark. So as I'm walking back to where I had parked the car, I passed, there was a little tiny laneway, a little alleyway. And I kind of looked down the alleyway and way down the end of the alley, I could see the doorway into yet another gallery. And I thought, oh no, I shouldn't go into that gallery because I'm sure it's just going to be more fabulous paintings and pottery and leather and beadwork and yada yada. So I continued on to my car. I get to my car, I unlock it, and I bought a couple of things. I throw them in the back seat. I then open up the driver's door, and as soon as I sat down in the driver's door, I heard Sonny's voice from the back seat say, "Go down the alleyway." I mean, it's like, oh man, oh, that's weird. I don't see him in the back seat, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm nuts. So I put on my seatbelt, and I'm getting ready to start the engine, and again, I hear, go, a little louder this time, "Go down the alley." I'm like, oh man, I'm like, I take off my seatbelt, I get out of the car, I'm walking around the car, I'm looking under the car, I'm looking in front of the car, behind the car, I'm going, boy, that sure sounds like him, but that can't be Sonny. No, I mean, I get back in the car, put on my seatbelt, I start the engine, and at this point, the voice this time is really loud and insistent, right from the back seat, like he's talking right here in my ear, and he says, "Go down the alleyway." And I'm like, oh, geez, okay. Turn the car off. I'm like, oh man, whoa, he's really insistent. So I get out of the car. I'm thinking, I have no clue why I'm going down there. So off I go. I see the gallery. I get there. I walk in the door, look around. It's a big gallery. I'm like, yeah, okay. Lots of paintings, lots of pottery, storytellers, beadwork. Yep, okay, got it. I keep walking to the back of the store. And right there in the corner at the back, it's just the weirdest thing. I'm standing in front of this curtain that was pulled across this doorway. And it was like somebody took my hand, reached up and grabbed the curtain and flung it open. And next thing I know, there was this lovely native gentleman with his back to me sitting on a stool, and he was painting. And he turns around and he looks at me, and I said, "Oh man, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to do that and interrupt your privacy. And he says, no, 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 come in, come in. I'm like, okay. So I come in and he says, have a seat. So I sat down and he says, so he takes a break from his painting and he sits on the stool across from me and he says, so where are you from? I said, Los Angeles. He said, where are you going? I said, Houston. He said, why? Well, so I explained my whole story about Will and how, he had passed away and we had major debt and everything that I had to pay off. And he sits and he leans back, he folds his arms and he leans back on the stool. And I said, yeah, and I got to pay off all these bills at the hospital and blah, 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 blah. And he's looking at me totally incredulous. And he says, the last person, the only person that ever did what you just did, that flung open that curtain and came right in here, was your friend Will. And he was coming here to ask me to donate paintings to raise money for the children on the reservations to buy them books for school.
Wow.
He said, so since you're now trying to raise money to pay off his medical debt, what can I do to help? What can I give you? Right.
And I have chills everywhere right now, which is another sign when they come through, that's validation, like everywhere. And they keep, goosebumps or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, for sure. So once Will started coming through loud and clear, very loud and clear like that, man, he sure made his presence known, which of course escalated to him manifesting in front of me. And as you know, for the next 27 years or whatever, he was always around manifesting, like right there in person. Let's have a conversation and talk about black holes today. So share something with us, a story of yours or a client's or whatever about an encounter or the first time they actually recognized a loved one in spirit. How did they come through?
One thing that I wanted to say in regard to your story is how persistent spirit will be. They are very persistent. So just know that if you are ignoring them and they're trying to give you a message, they will come through until you get the memo, just so you know. That's happened to me so many times. If I'm supposed to be giving a client a message or a friend or someone that I haven't talked to in 10 years and, their loved one's popping through saying, oh, tell them blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, they're going to think I'm nuts. I've been through that many times. So just so you know, and that does happen a lot with my clients. They'll get messages and they're like, what do I do with this? And like, relay the message some way, somehow, write it down, put it in an envelope and give it to them. But at least you gave the message, because spirit is very persistent, as you just shared. So I have so many, I have so many wonderful experiences of people that have connected with spirit and loved ones. I mean, in sessions, that's a very conducive space. When I give an energy healing treatment, we're in a nice, dark, cozy room, and there's music playing and there's a candle burning and I have sage, so it's very conducive, it's relaxing. And that space, because there's in such an open, they're open and really relaxed. I've had many, many clients connect with their loved ones that way, and I'll invite them in. I invite the loved ones, your guides, your angels. I mean, I invite everyone in for the greatest good, always for the greatest good, purify, that light, call in the guardian angels, archangels, and bring them in. And
light the sage.
Oh yes, I just lit mine. Lit mine. Yes, I'm almost out. But the experiences that I've had, and I know you asked for a specific one, but there's so many, is when a loved one comes through, don't be surprised if it is a profound experience. And I've had clients who haven't heard from their father. Maybe they were little and they hadn't heard from them, or it had been a very long time before they heard from mom or grandmother. And in that moment, I mean, the chills that you have in the body and the energy, like your heart opens up, and they make their presence so known, and they know how to amp it up. A lot of times when I first started giving energy healing treatments, I went to energy healing school. I was dedicated. I had all, I had worked for years and years to be the vessel, and I knew that I could get messages. I knew that I was extremely intuitive, But in the very beginning, when I started to give sessions, boom, did they come in every single time with my clients. And initially I remember arguing. I'll tell you my first, in a nutshell here. I'm holding this woman's head. She gets on the table. She's nice and relaxed. And this is very early on in my practice. This is close to 9 years ago. And here comes her dad, spirit, boom. I'm holding her head, giving her a session. And he's like, oh my gosh, tell her I love her. I love her. I love her. And my skin was ice cold. It was like he was blowing cold air up up the back of my neck and lifting me off of my stool. And I'm arguing intuitively with this spirit, with dad. And I'm like, I didn't tell her that I could talk to you. And I was always taught, my teacher always said, ask permission before you give a message. So dad's arguing. He's like, you have to tell her now. And he keeps, boom, lifting me up out of the seat. You know, and it was so uncomfortable that I had to say something, which was a great lesson to be learned. I, quietly, excused myself and said, excuse me, I didn't tell you, but I have the ability to connect with spirit. And there's a spirit here that really, really wants it. I didn't even get all the words out. She almost flips off the table and is like, yes, I want to know. And so dad started talking, and I'm telling you, she needed to hear from him in that moment. He knew it. I was giving her the treatment thinking, oh, I'll give her the information after. It was in that now moment at that time. She needed that more than she needed the energy healing treatment. She had missed him and had been grieving, and they had such a strong bond. I have chills now just talking about it. And that was very profound for me. And trusting when spirit comes in, when they have a message, if they want to talk to you, that they're going to get your attention. They can flicker the lights. They can, anything with energy is easy. Back in the day, it was the answering machines, when we had a lot of landlines.
Oh, complete. And are you kidding? Yes, I'd wake up sometimes in the middle of the night. My answering machine would be, hi, this is Sam. I'm not here right now. Leave a message. I'll call you back. Hi, this is Sam. I'm like, what? And then you unplug it and it still doesn't stop. So,
yes, absolutely. And microwaves, things like that, and even now, a lot of people will get phone calls. I've had some really cool experiences with clients with their cell phones where they're getting calls from their number, like some really interesting, like you can't make it up, those kind of experiences. And they have so many ways. And if you, again, get out of the way and allow yourself to experience, invite them in. I miss you, please give me a sign. Be playful and open with them. It
absolutely.
Could be, and don't you agree, like, nature is one of the greatest forms of communication with the world of spirit. If you get out in nature, animals will act silly and fun. If you see, an animal do a somersault in front of you, or a hawk's flying in front of you, or, two butterflies are dancing right by you, or a bird just perches next to you and is just looking at you. And if you get that picture in your mind of them, or you pick a feather up and you just think of them, it's a sign from them. They're letting you know, I'm here. They have so many amazing ways that they can let you know that. And you're not making it up. Watches are another one. If you have a watch of theirs, it might start.
Yep. That's what Sonny did with me. That was the very first thing, was his watch. Because the watch hadn't worked in, I don't know, months and months and months. It had stopped. And then all of a sudden, after he passed, I was and as I'm holding his watch, it suddenly starts ticking, and it stopped at 6:03. And 6:03 was the date that he passed, June 3rd. And 6:03 was the exact time that we had buried him, and I was leaving his grave site. And somebody said to me, what time is it? And I said, oh, it's 6:03, because I had to catch a plane. I said, it's 6:03. Yeah, they do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I remember my friend Towns, one day, one of the messages, he came through loud and clear, and he says to me, call Janine. And I'm like, oh Lord, now why do I have to call Janine, right? His widow. Why do I have to call Janine? He says, call her up and tell her to look in the copper pot. I call her up and I said, Janine, do you have a copper pot? Like, maybe I'm sensing it's on your kitchen counter, an old copper pot. And she said, yeah, it's a small little copper teapot thing. It's been there for years and years and years. I said, well, Towns wants you to look in the copper pot. She said, okay. So she walks into the kitchen. A few minutes later, she comes back onto the phone. She's roaring hysterically. And I said, what? She said, oh my God, I just looked in the copper pot. That's where the roach clip is. I've been looking for it for over a year.
So of course, he let you know to tell her so she could find it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's so
And
much
if you,
fun.
that's another thing. If you're looking for something and you can't find it, ask them, and a lot of times they will give you the answer, or
Exactly.
they'll make sure someone else can that can hear them will.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, never think twice to ask them. And if you miss them, invite them to sit down next to you. Take them on a walk with you. They can go anywhere with you that you want them to. That's something
Absolutely. Taking pictures, spirit orbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have tons of spirit orbs.
Spirit orbs show up. And
yeah,
I remember I was doing some work with this minister. His mother was dying, and he was really himself having a hard time dealing with losing his mother. He had no idea how to minister to her. Even though he was a minister, he said, I don't know what's going to happen to her. I'm like, really? Really? He said, I need you to be with her and talk to her and help her through this time. He said, I don't know what to say to her. I don't know how to take the fear away, because his mother was terrified. So anyway, so I went there to help with mom and all that sort of thing. But meanwhile, I said to him, I said, you do realize that her mother is here to take her? And he said, no. I said, really? She's here. And he said, so you're telling me my grandmother is here right now in spirit? I said, yes, she is. He said, oh, come on. How do I know that? I said, okay, how about this? Let me get my camera. And I said, okay, you sit there on the sofa, and grandma, how about you sit next to your grandson? Let me take a photo. I did. There's his grandmother. He couldn't believe it. He nearly fell off the sofa. He's like, oh my God. And then right at that moment, as I'm showing him this photo in the very next room where his mother was dying, all of a sudden she said, Mama? Mama?
There's your confirmation. Yep.
Yeah, it was cool.
And yes, I mean, and it's everywhere. I mean, really, your dogs, if they're looking up and they're seeing someone, or your cat's acting up, they're seeing the loved one. Birds are a number one. The hummingbirds, cardinals, a lot of people have, they know which bird is from which loved one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also suggest to people a lot of times, because they need somehow to be able to do something tangible to make the connection. So one of the things that always works, and it sure worked for me many times, you take a piece of paper, write a note to them, because it's coming from your heart. Don't do it on the computer. Hand write the note, and don't make it all about you and how sorry you feel for yourself and yada, yada, yada. Tell them how much you love them and invite them to be a part of your life. Share positive things, and then roll it up, say a prayer, thank God for delivering this message directly to your loved one, and burn it, because smoke crosses over into the dimension where your loved one is, because that intention of reaching them goes through the smoke, and it will reach them immediately. And if you would like for them to give you a sign, ask, and they might come in a dream, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, dreams are another big one where the loved ones come in. Yes, they come in through dreams. And there's a difference between dreaming about them and dreaming and having that actual connection, that the real spiritual connection, because they're so tangible. You can smell them, touch them, feel them, squeeze them. I mean, at least my experience is I always know the difference.
Yes.
Because you wake up and you were with them.
Yes, because it's like a dream is like you're observing a scenario. You're remembering, you're observing, you're not a participant in the scenario. When you do actually engage with them, and a lot of times it will happen when you're asleep, because so many people try to control a situation. So spirit, your loved one, has to wait till your brain's out of the way. Yes. And when your brain is asleep and quiet, now spirit will be able to encounter your spirit, because you're vibrating in tandem at the same level and the
Yes.
same frequency so you can communicate. So now you do realize that you are actually having an encounter.
Yes, very different than a dream. And and when we're in our light bodies and they're in theirs, it's easy. You know, nothing gets in the way. It's just love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, are there any tips that we can share with people for things that they can do that where they want to connect with a loved one? You know, writing the letter, the note, I think is a really good one.
And a lot of times when you're writing the note, they're watching you. They're with you when you're writing it. They're looking over your shoulder. They can feel what's coming out, and they're so present with you as well. Writing the letter, yes. Inviting them in. I'll put my hand out. So many times when I've been in my car, I've put my hand out, and you know, my younger brother always is riding in the front. My dad's always in the back, and which is so funny because normally my dad would always be the one to take the front seat, but in spirit, dad's in the back and my brother's in the front. But you know, put your hand out and create an opportunity for them, and you might feel the warmth in your hand. You might feel the softness of a kiss. A lot of my clients during energy healing treatments will feel their loved ones kiss them, and it feels like a kiss.
Absolutely.
Yes. When my dad died,
Absolutely.
I felt him hug me while I was driving my car home that night. And I've never experienced a hug like that from spirit before, but it was, you can't make it up. I mean, it was just like, you know, so inviting them, asking for them to, you know, leave you a sign, give a sign again, and be open-minded. And songs on the radio, that's another huge one.
Oh, that's really big.
Play our song, and you know, or asking for a message through a song, or we wake up and lyrics are stuck in your head.
Absolutely.
You know,
and walking in nature, just doing like a walking
Yes.
meditation, because now you are getting your head out of the chaos and the busyness, and you're connecting with nature, which already vibrates at a much higher frequency, and you become
Yes.
quiet and tune in to a higher frequency, which
Yes.
allows spirit to be able to connect with you so much easier.
Yes. Yes. And even I was just asking, billboards, signs, even you might see their name, you might see something. Pay attention, because even in one day you might have 3 different signs, you know, in a license plate. I remember that happening very specifically to me.
Yep.
And
me too.
three things in a row. It was just, I could, and again, I always say, you can't make this stuff up. It was just so obvious and blatant.
Yes.
When you feel them touching you, acknowledge them. You know, it's a relationship that you're wanting to create, and you can have an amazing, loving relationship that continues. It's just going to be different because you're going to be communicating differently. And you know, it's so fun when you start to be creative and expansive. I mean, just open yourself up.
Absolutely. And it's about you learning to speak this language that is native to you.
Yes.
You've always known this language, you've just forgotten it because you've become so verbose in using your mouth.
And the telepathic communication. I mean, there's so much that happens, and sometimes you'll just get a download of information. Like you'll know not only are they okay, but they're with grandma and grandpa, and they're fishing, or they're over here, and it's just, you'll get a download. So really don't limit the ways in which they can communicate, because you are a spiritual being. You are a spiritual being inside of this body, and you have so many gifts in ways of communicating.
Yes.
And so many people dismiss the signs and the connection because they overlook it. They think that they're making it up, or they overlook the subtleties of them, because they're not like smacking them upside the head.
Yes. I had a gentleman contact me in Florida, and he wasn't sure, but he thought he was sure, but he wasn't sure. And he said, my daughter just recently passed away. And she always said to me, Daddy, when I die, I'm coming back as a bird. So here she's passed. He went out to his truck. There was a bird sitting on the dash of his truck. And that bird refused to, he left the windows open for the bird to fly out. It would not leave for 3 days.
Yep. I mean, you can't.
Confirmation that it was his daughter.
Oh yes. I mean, and birds are a lot of fun too. If they make a lot of noise at the window, or they're banging at the window, or if they're just perching there, you know, and it's just kind of like they're watching me. I've had many clients say that, you know, oh, that's mom. I know it is, because she's staring at me. She's stalking me. She's watching me and looking at me until I, you know, acknowledge her.
Yes.
Because she was persistent like that. But again, yes, butterflies, bumblebees, winged creatures.
It's the freedom of flight, that once the soul is out of the confinement of the physical body, it is free to fly. Yes. And that is who we naturally are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Nature is, to me, is one of the most amazing ways to really allow, you know, loved ones to connect with rocks, stones, things like that too.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how about,
and sometimes, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we don't want to go on for too long, but because it's so easy. How about in our next video, let's talk about animals and recognizing animals. Okay. Not only whether it's a cat or a dog, but wildlife, and recognizing spirit in wildlife, and how all of a sudden you feel like there's a bond, or you feel like, oh, I know that animal, or I know the soul in that animal from somewhere.
Yes. Oh, you just gave me the chills again when you said that. Yes. And again, if a certain animal shows up, even like a lion, you know, and you're like, there's no way that I can be this connected to a lion. Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
There's so many wonderful things to discuss about the animals and how they communicate with us, and our pets and our loved ones, and animal totems. And if certain animals show up,
the totems. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the totems, because that's a connection that we have for whatever reason. It's like, okay, that animal is a guide for you in this particular lifetime. That's why you keep having the encounters. That's why you have the feelings, etc. So yeah, we'll jump into that in our.
Yes. Okay. That'll be fun. And maybe if they want to ask questions.
Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Hey guys, if you have any questions, anything you would like for us to address, and it can be anything on the planet. I mean, you could ask about ETs if you want. You can ask about ascended masters. You can ask about meditations, or any kind of communication, anything about spirit. You can ask about dying. We can talk about that. We can talk about suicide. We can talk about anything. And don't think that suicide is necessarily a real downer. I mean, we consider it a downer, but once you understand where that person is, and where they've gone, where they're going to, the journey, the light, there's so much. So any questions that you might have, Heidi and I will be more than happy to address those. And down the line, at some point, we're actually going to put together a workshop. And Heidi and I will do it via Zoom. We'll do it live with those people, you know, who sign up for the workshop, and we'll pick certain topics. So again, yes, Heidi mentioned, about the questions. I think that'd be great. If there's anything in particular you want to study in a workshop, learn how to do, let us know. Put some posts here on the group page, and we'll address that. So anything else, Heidi, that we need to?
I think we covered quite a bit. And again, if they have questions and want more clarity, you know, feel free to ask, because we love to dive in, and you and I, we can go anywhere and everywhere, as you just said, and we do, you know, and because of our experiences that we've had, and our dedication and devotion to be of service, and the consistency that we've had and the integrity of our willingness, you know, that has allowed us to have countless experiences that just really enhance our ability to connect and to communicate. Integrity means a lot in spirit, you know, and that's something that's really important in just even your own experience. So that that's another topic we can talk about, but we both definitely have that, and we can go anywhere. So this is what's exciting for us. We're just getting our feet wet right now, but we've been guided to do this for a while. So thank you for the opportunity, Sam. I'm so thankful, and you know, to everybody that's out listening, because
absolutely. Yes. And the other thing is, everybody in the group, invite everyone to come and tell your friends about the group. invite them to join. I know it is a private group, but invite them to join. We'll have all these, Spirit Talk videos posted there. Heidi and I will also be sharing them like on our personal pages so that you guys can share them with others. Because we're here to help you guys learn about everything, the reality of who you are, about spirit, uplift you, make you feel comfortable. Don't be fearful. We want you to embrace everything about spirit. And also, it's important to realize and remember, spirit also has a sense of humor.
Yes. Oh, definitely has a sense of humor. And the angels have a sense. I mean, they're fun. Our loved ones, they love to have a good time. And
They do.
We're too serious. So often we are so serious. And this, you and I, we laugh, we giggle, we go on and on and on because we do have a lot of fun. We've been through a lot of serious things in the way that we've worked, but we have so much fun. And that's what we want to bring, is the lightheartedness as well. And the joy and we're spiritual beings. We want to help you to remember who you are. It's such a joy for us to be able to just lead you and guide you, as we've been led and guided by so many beautiful beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well,
okay.
We're looking forward to everything. And thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you in the next video. And yes, animals. We'll dive into animals. And I mean, there's just so much. Send the questions, and we look forward to your comments, your questions, everything, and any way that we can be of service to help you guys and enlighten you, embrace you, love you. We're here. All right. Bye, everybody.